out your presentation. So can I hand over to you, and please do take it away and tell us about your experience with service design in local government.
Will do. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for the introduction and for the opportunity to share my experience here today. So I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a second. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Can you see only my presentation now? Okay.
Yep, you're wonderful. All good.
So what I'm going to share today is my experience with assisting local government with implementing service design. So a little bit more about my background. So you might have seen the strange letters in my name. It's because I'm from Norway. On the left here, you see a picture of my hometown, Haugesund. That's on the west coast of the country. I started out my professional career working as a safety engineer in the oil and gas industry. And my main areas there were risk management. I worked a bit with lean, also with continual improvement. And I was also part of a team who made sure that our workers were safe while working out at the platforms. So I'm a big fan of improving system and improving everything we do and make sure that things have a good quality. However, I noticed that when we had certain systems there that like even though you improve on it, it's still not really working because the system itself really should change. And then what do you do? So I got a little bit disillusioned and I moved on and decided to study some more. So I went to sunny Madrid because the west coast of Norway is like a lot of Scotland. There's a lot of rain. So I used the opportunity to get some sun as well. And I studied visual and digital media there. And as part of those studies, I was introduced to human-centered design for the first time. And a light switch went on, and I realized that that was the missing part. That's what had been missing from my work as a safety engineer, was a method and a way of changing things altogether or creating something new. And as long as you then focus on having the human at the center of your design, then you're going to create something good. And also you're allowed to fail. You can just keep, changing things until you get it right, which I really thought was great. So I decided to learn more about that as well. So when I went back to Norway, I then signed up for a design thinking course. So I have a postgraduate certificate in that. And that was great because it was a hands-on study. And we worked in the hospital in Bergen with how we could improve the emergency service that they had there. So that was a great experience and just made me want to do more within service design or design thinking. So as I did my design thinking, I also worked alongside UX designers in a software company developing software. So I did some user testing there, and we had discussions on how to develop new features to our software. I also worked as a project manager for a project where we were reviewing our entire software and change it so that it could be accessible for blind users as well. Then on a personal level, I met the love of my life, and he happened to live in London. So then I had to move to be with him, and that was great because it's always nice with a change of scene. And then I worked as a service design consultant there for a consulting agency. So the work there was mainly improving on internal processes like our hiring process, and then I also worked with Aldi, because we were assisting them with creating their own service design department within their organization. And one of the things we came across there was that we needed to establish a way to do service design because there's so many different ways and languages and methods and tools you can use. So we spent quite a lot of time then creating a foundation and an agreement of how do we do it at Aldi, and what do we sort of recommend? And then my partner, who's Scottish, wanted to move home, so we ended up moving to Scotland. And I started working for the digital office earlier this year in January. So the digital office, I'm sure that many of you have heard of it, but also many might not have heard of it. So just to give you a quick overview, we are under the COSLA umbrella. We are paid for by local government to assist them with the digital transformation and to deliver on ambitions of the national strategy, the national digital strategy, and the implementation of the Scottish approach to service design is part of that strategy. And that's where I come in as a service designer. So for you, I'm sure most of you have heard of the Scottish approach to service design, but in case someone hasn't heard of it, it is the guidelines that we have been given to use here in Scotland. And as I mentioned before, I think I was really, really happy when I saw this, because when I worked in London, we spent so much time on agreeing on one way to do it. And here I started in a job and it was already there. So I'm a huge fan of the Scottish approach to service design. So I was new on the job, right? And I was told, okay, finally we have a service designer. You figure out what you want to do and what your role will be. Great. So that was very open. So I went in with an intention in form of a question, and that is, how do I, in this role, create as much value as possible for local government? So what I did then was just trying to understand and read up on as much as possible. There were 32 councils. And to be honest, when I came here, I didn't know the name of most of them. So I had to learn the name of them, and everything else needed to understand the digital office role. There's lots of other players in the field. What do they do? What do we do? How does it all fit together? And what's my role in all of this? There was a lot of good work that had been done before I started. As I mentioned before, the Scottish approach to service design was there, so there was something to come together around or align to, which was great. In addition, there was already a community there, a local government service design group. So that had been started by a couple of years ago, I think, by two of the people doing service design in two different councils coming together and deciding we want to meet, we want to talk, we want to share experiences to help us with implementing service design. So they didn't feel so alone. And then this kind of community of two people grew to 3 to 4 and became a whole group. So we're now over 40 people in this group. From, I think we now have 21 councils that are represented and still growing. And we aim to have people from all councils be represented in this group. So yeah, so these were already established. They were meeting every 6 weeks. So when I started in my role, I took over chairing these meetings, which also was a great place for asking questions and getting to know a bit better the work that they were doing already. Then, like all bosses do, they ask you to deliver something. And my boss asked me then, can you create a strategy, create a plan for what you're going to do going forward? So that's what I did. I created a service design strategy with what was quite limited information, really. But I thought, okay, I will just have to deliver something. So I created a strategy. And it was a one solution fits all. We start from the beginning, create a foundation, make sure everyone knows about service design and how we do it. And then we just build on that. And then when we know how we do it in local government and we have some experience and we've built all of that, then we can go maybe outside and start collaborating outside of the councils as well. So what better place to test the strategy than on the people who it involved, which was the people in the local government service design community. So I shared my strategy with them, eager to hear their responses and what they thought of it. So, but after I then presented it, it was just quiet. There was no questions, no comments, nothing. And I knew that I definitely hadn't nailed it because I had way too little information to really create a good strategy. So then I rolled up my sleeves and decided, the service design process, that's obviously what I need to follow here. And I need to go and talk to the people that I'm creating the strategy for. So the people I'm serving really with my work. So that's when I started having one-to-ones with people doing service design in councils. Now, on a side note, the reason I'm calling them people doing service design in councils is because very, very few of these people have the role of a service designer. So they are instead project managers, business analysts, improvement advisors, team leaders, etc., etc. And then they also do service design as well. So let's see what I then learned from talking to people. And let me just say up front, that was, I think, maybe the smartest decision I've made on my job, is to talk with people and get information directly from them. I learned so much, and it's led to much more than really I'm going to present to you today. Like it's made me, get in touch with new people that could join our community and, just help me get better at my job and know what I needed to learn. So it was because they always had some recommendations of readings or something that I then ended up reading lots on after the fact. So it was really, really good. What I'm going to sum up for you now is just what they told me was working well for them and what the challenges were. So I had then talked to 15 different councils then, the people from 15 different councils. So not all councils are represented here, as there are 32 in total. So what they said worked well is that the local government service design community, because it gave them a chance to just ask people if they had any question, right? Have you done any user research on collection of bins or whatever? And then they could get the reply from someone else in the group. That worked really well. And just to have a space to share experiences and maybe learn from each other. So, and also another thing that came out of this conversation, that obviously a lot of these councils have already started implementing service design and are quite far on their journey of doing so. And another thing they mentioned that had worked for them, a couple of councils, was that when they merged service design practices with already existing ways of working, then that was really efficient and really helpful in implementing service design. So what were the challenges? They talked about limited budget and resources. There's lack of buy-in from management and chief executives. In fact, one of the councils stated that that's why they haven't started the journey at all with service design yet, because the management didn't really believe in it. And they reported that there's a big focus on using service designs to save money rather than creating value or services that work for people. There's a bit of people feeling a bit intimidated by service design. It feels like something they don't really understand. There's a lack of confidence for the people who do a bit of training. And they're saying, okay, it's easy maybe to send people on a training course, but to have them actually do service design can be challenging. There's also a mindset of service managers, the people involved with the services, thinking that they already have all the answers. There's no need to ask the users, because obviously they worked on this service for 20 years, so they know it really best. And then obviously it's then challenging to harmonize the service design role with other roles in the councils, like the service managers, when they don't really want to use service assign, and how do you divide responsibilities and all of this within the councils then. Another thing is that some of the service assigners that have been hired, or people hired to do service assign, have, maybe gone on courses and been trained, and then unfortunately they decide to leave. Unfortunately for the council, but maybe good on them, because they will find better paid jobs elsewhere, and also an opportunity for career development as well. So they've seen a lot of people leaving the councils to go elsewhere, which is a shame. There was also a lot of confusion around what guidelines to follow. So, or what, yeah. So I'm talking to people who some of them haven't heard of the Scottish Portrait Service Assign. That's one thing. Other people have heard of that, but they're like, oh, but we're following everything on uk.gov, or the UK service standard, and they don't know that there's a Scottish service standard as well. And there's a bit of confusion around there, and also confusion around how the different organizations relate to them and what each of them can offer, right? So I also know there's a lot of council who don't even know about this service assign network that we have. So we have a job to do there to make sure everyone hear about us, and at least can have the choice to join us if they like. And another interesting thing here is, one of them said that there's no national framework for how to implement service assign according to the Scottish approach to service assign. So although the Scottish approach to service assign tells you, how step by step, what it looks like when you've implemented it, it doesn't necessarily give you any detailed information on how to go forward with it. So the same person also gave me feedback, my first feedback to my strategy, and he belonged to one of the councils who've come quite far on their journey of implementing it in their council. And he said, that strategy, that's great for the people who are new to it, you're creating a foundation and all of that stuff, but we've already done that. We did that years ago. So we're not going to benefit from this. So why are we part of this community? What are we getting out of this collaboration or the work you do? Because everything you've lined up now only caters to the ones who are fairly new to it. So then I asked him, yeah, okay, good. What do you suggest we do instead? Because I don't know. And then he then told me about how they were using the service assign maturity matrix that is a part of the Scottish approach to service assign. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but there is a maturity matrix, a way to measure how far you've come on the journey of implementing service assign. And they're having these levels from 1 to 5, where 5 means you've fully implemented it, so that you can sort of measure yourself against it. So he said, we're already using that one, and we're right now working on an action plan on how to get to the next level, because we're on level 3. We want to get to level 4, and it would be really good if you could help us with some support with that. And also he said that this is probably relevant to a lot of other councils, because we're quite similar in the way we operate. So whatever I put down in my action plan should be relevant to all the other councils who are in level 3 as well. So he suggested, why don't you divide the local government service assign group according to the maturity level, and then everyone can start collaborating with other people who are at their same place or facing the same challenges. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, really, really good. So we decided to do that. So I started asking then the members of our group, of our community, to provide assessment. And from this person that I talked to, who told me that he'd done this already, said that in his experience, you don't really need to do thorough assessment. You could just do it based on your gut feeling, because if you work there for a while, you have a fair idea of where your council is at. Either way, we're just going to use these results to decide what group to put the people in anyway, so it didn't have to be very accurate. So then we just asked people to just do it themselves. And this is the results as of November. This November, I received 3 more last week, to be honest. So I've put the last ones into our matrix. Here you see, to your right, you see a picture of the maturity assessment matrix, the way it looks in the Scottish approach to service design. And the way it's made is that it has, 5 different categories. So this one here, you see in blue there, says engagement with Scottish approach to service design principle, tools, methods, and community. So that's one of 5 categories that you can then measure. So what we did is that we had then 16 council did self-assessments. We had one of the council actually had an external consulting agency doing it for them earlier. So that was great. So I was sent that report and could kind of read it. Because one of the questions I also had, to be honest, is like, okay, if people do this themselves, how do we know? Like, are they making it look better than it really is? Or how honest are they about it? But it was really good then to see an outside consultancy that had done it for a council, and they were pretty much the same level as a lot of the other councils. So then you realize, okay, this is probably quite accurate. And some of the assessments were done then just by the person who do service design in the council. Some of them had done it in collaboration with others. And some of the assessments were, because we first thought, well, let's do that of the whole council, because that's easier, or that's good, because then we can just measure the whole council. But then some of the people I talked to said, but we don't know what's going on in the entire council. We can't talk for them. We can only talk for the area of the department where we work, because we've come this far, but I can't speak for the other areas of our council. So then we just decided, all right, but just do the assessment for where you work, because that's where we're going to help you anyway get to the next level. So then it doesn't really matter if it's the entire council. So let's see then how it went. So here you see we've taken all the 5 categories. They're in the left side there. You see all the categories, and then the different maturity levels are on top there: not evident, limited, growing, strengthening, and embedding. And then we have the council put 1 dot at, for each of the category on what maturity level they had. So each of the color here represents 1 council. And what you might see from this, it's a rather messy, but what it shows is that some of the council they're the same sort of, in all the categories, they're the same maturity levels, but some councils are more spread. So they might be very far in one category, but not very far in another. Either way, we were using, and that might be good for me later, because I know which council is which here. So if let's say group number, there's people that want to work on how to get from 3 to 4. In the 3rd category there, you see somebody is already in embedding. There's a little dot under embedding. And then I can go to that person and say, hey, we want to know a bit more about how we get to where you are. Could you share that with us? So obviously I can use this information. But the main reason we did this was to divide it into smaller collaboration groups. So then we just did the average. Wherever they had the most dots, that's where they landed. So, and this is how it looked like simplified. So you see we have 3 in not evident, we have 9 councils in limited, and another 5 in growing. And then the plan then is to put these in 3 different groups. So right now in our community, most of the people in our community are in group 2 and group 3. So we're going to start, and they're already coming to our meetups. So we are then, as part of the meetups, we're going to divide that time and have one half of it doing collaboration work in the groups. So that's already established. So people from group 2 and group 3 will start that work in January next year. And then, but for group number 1, we've decided that we're going to wait a little bit with setting up a group there, because they're very new to it. They don't know much going in. So it'd be very, very good if we already had a plan for them on where they could start. Like, this is the stuff you need to read up on. These are the standards. These are the courses we recommend. So there's some sort of starter pack for them to get going as soon as they join. And the good news here is that both people in group 2 and group 3 can help us create that. So what are we going to do then? What kind of work are we going to do in these groups? What's the idea? So I've tried to make something visual here to explain it. So each of these rectangles you see here represents, you know, one of these categories, and well, there's a category and there's a maturity level, right? So let's say that you are going to work with engagement with the Scottish Postal Service design, principle, tools and methods and community. You just started, you're in group number 1 here. Then you need to find out, okay, what do I need to do to get into the next one, to number 2? And if you're in maturity level 2 on that same category, you want to know, how do I get to maturity level 3, and etc. And then when you've reached maturity level 5, you're done. Then you've implemented the Scottish Postal Service design. So what do we want to do then? So what we would like to do is to create a little plan, an action plan of practical steps or recommended courses or case studies explaining things for each of these steps. So obviously for now, we have 3 groups, so we'll work on those first. And as the people in the 3rd level moves over to the 4th level, we will then create some material there as well. So that is the idea. And what we would like to do is to then align everything we do. What kind of case studies we then create, what training courses we will start offering, what kind of discussions we have. We will align all of that to this implementation plan. And that I think will help us to have a focus and a common goal, and something that then all of these groups, no matter what maturity level, will then work together to achieve. So that is sort of the main outcome. So obviously there was a lot of conversation that I had with the councils and discussions that we've had. And so it has helped inform then a lot of decisions. So what I just took you through now is what I think is the main thing, is the biggest and best bit of it, is that idea of creating this implementation plan, because it means all the other councils that we onboard or welcome into the group will already come to something that is there and can help us improve on that. So I'm quite excited about that. And it helps us decide what kind of training you ask for or whatever else you do, which is really good. And as I also mentioned, it has changed the way we do our local government meetups, because we're now going to allocate dedicated time for this collaboration on this. And also we kept what works well, because from our, talking to everyone, they really liked to have that platform where they can just ask questions and share things for everyone. So we're going to keep that space where everyone can meet regardless of maturity level to discuss things that is related to everyone, or for people to still ask questions. One of the things that came out of our chats with people as well was that there's a lack of buy-in from management and executives. So I'm then sharing that internally in our organization, and then some of the people were going to create a new workshop anyway, and then decided to focus on that. And so they had Synnøve, which is a service design consulting agency, come in, and then they're going to have this workshop the 12th of December already. So there's something happening out of these conversations to see if we can create some excitement among management. So all this information, this matrix that we're done, and the way we're going to work also helps inform our other internal collaboration we have, like how can, because we're doing a maturity digital assessment of councils anyway, related to the digital strategy. And then it's like, how can we just have the service design maturity assessment be part of that? So people don't have to come to me maybe for service design and to someone else for the other things. How can they just come to the digital office and get sort of a full deal? And it's also informing our external collaboration. So I'm currently collaborating with the improvement service, who are also creating services, right, to help implement service design. So this work will help us collaborate with them and the Scottish Digital Academy. They're the ones creating training for us, and also the Office of the Chief Designer, who are helping us a lot with giving us some of their very good material that we can then reuse for our purposes. So yeah, that's a little summary of the outcomes from this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Synnøve. I think that there's so many elements of that which chime with, I think, our experience as well. That was great to get a summary of where you are and to benefit from your experience as well of what you've done. I think we're going to, Karis, we're going to stop the recording